My name is Miriam, 34 years old, and I thought loyalty meant something until that Tuesday morning when everything I believed about corporate America shattered. 9 years I'd given to Preston Financial Services, arriving before sunrise, leaving long after sunset, building something I thought mattered. Walking into David's office that morning for what I expected would be my quarterly review, I saw that smile, that smug, satisfied smile that told me everything before he even opened his mouth. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever been betrayed at work, please like and subscribe to hear how justice sometimes comes when you least expect it. Preston Financial Services wasn't just any investment firm. Nestled in downtown Chicago's financial district, it managed portfolios for some of the Midwest's most prominent families and corporations. I joined at 25, fresh out of Northwestern, with my MBA and dreams bigger than Lake Michigan. The marble lobby had intimidated me that first day, all gleaming surfaces and men in $1,000 suits, discussing millions like pocket change. David Harrison had been my direct supervisor from day one. Back then, he seemed like everything I wanted to become. 40-something sharp with that kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly where you stood in the corporate hierarchy. He'd shown me around personally, introduced me as his new protege to anyone who'd listen. Those first months he'd been patient with my questions, generous with his time, even defensive when senior management pushed back on my initial proposals. I threw myself into the work with everything I had. While my friends from college were exploring Chicago's nightlife, I was building financial models until my eyes burned. When they were planning weekend trips to Michigan beaches, I was analyzing market trends and preparing client presentations. My efficiency caught attention quickly. Within 6 months, I'd streamlined our quarterly reporting process, saving the department 20 hours of work each cycle. The first promotion came after 2 years, senior analyst. David had called me into his office, that same office where everything would end 7 years later, and told me how proud he was of my development. He'd presented my promotion to the board himself, he said, fought for the salary increase when HR pushed back. I'd believed him completely, even bought him an expensive bottle of scotch as thanks. My sister Emma's wedding rehearsal fell on the same night as the Hoffman Industries emergency. Their CEO was panicking about a potential merger, needed revised valuations by morning. David had looked at me apologetically, said he'd handle it himself if he could, but the client specifically requested me. Emma had cried when I called to cancel. Mum didn't speak to me for 3 weeks, but I'd stayed, worked through the night, saved the deal. David had taken the credit in the Monday meeting, mentioning my assistance only in passing. The automation system I developed in my 3rd year should have been my ticket to the top. It was sophisticated beyond anything our competitors had, using predictive algorithms I'd created to identify investment opportunities before market shifts. The system generated an additional $42 million in returns its first year alone. The board knew my name after that. Clients started requesting me specifically for their accounts. David's warmth began cooling around the same time. Small things at first. He'd forget to invite me to strategy meetings, then apologize profusely when I found out. He'd edit my reports before sending them up the chain, adding his name as co-author. When clients complimented my work in his presence, he'd quickly redirect the conversation to team efforts and his leadership. I told myself he was just establishing proper hierarchy, maintaining department structure. The Lancaster Industries deal was my masterpiece. $40 million portfolio complex, international holdings, tax implications that would make your head spin. I'd spent 3 months courting them, flying to Philadelphia on weekends at my own expense, learning everything about their business until I could speak their language fluently. When they signed, it was the largest single account acquisition in company history. David announced it as a department victory, his strategic vision coming to fruition. My name appeared once in the email, buried in a list of contributors. My relationship with Marcus suffered constantly. He was patient, understanding why I'd cancelled dinner plans when David called with urgent requests. He'd bring me coffee during those endless weekend sessions, sit quietly reading while I worked. But I could see the hurt when I missed his brother's graduation, the disappointment when I spent our anniversary in the office. He never complained directly, just asked occasionally if it would always be like this. For 3 years, David dangled the senior manager position like a carrot. It was always just one more quarter away, one more big win needed. He'd mention it casually in performance reviews, how I was almost ready, just needed to demonstrate more patience, more strategic thinking. Meanwhile, I was essentially running half the department. New hires came to me with questions, knowing David would just redirect them anyway. I created training materials, established best practices, mentored junior staff through their first deals. Jennifer started the same year I made senior analyst, fresh-faced from University of Chicago, reminding me of myself. I took her under my wing, taught her everything David had supposedly taught me, but actually hadn't. She flourished, and unlike David, I made sure everyone knew her victories were her own. Robert joined a year later, brilliant with numbers, but terrible with people. I coached him through client presentations until he could command a room. By year 7, our team had grown from 5 to 15 people. My unofficial leadership was an open secret. Clients called my direct line. Other departments coordinated with me for joint projects. Even William Sterling, our CEO, would nod in recognition when we passed in the halls. He'd stopped by my desk once after the Lancaster deal, shook my hand, personally said he was watching my career with interest. David's comments grew sharper as my visibility increased. Little digs about knowing your place, about patience being a virtue, about how some people peaked early while others played the long game. He'd make jokes in meetings about ambitious millennials looking directly at me, while others laughed uncomfortably. When I won the Company Excellence Award, he'd insisted on accepting it on behalf of the department, never mentioning my name in his acceptance speech. The promotion promises became more frequent and more hollow. Each quarter he'd have a new excuse. Budget constraints, organizational restructuring, board hesitancy about rapid advancement. Meanwhile, his golf buddy Tom from commercial lending became senior vice president after 5 years. His racquetball partner Steve moved up 2 levels in one promotion. The pattern was clear to everyone except me, or maybe I just didn't want to see it. My work had become my identity. Preston Financial Services was on my business cards, my LinkedIn, my apartment lease as employer reference. I'd turned down 3 headhunting offers telling recruiters I was building something special where I was. Marcus had proposed twice, and both times I'd asked him to wait until after my next promotion, when things would calm down. He'd stopped asking 6 months ago. The morning everything changed had started like hundreds before it. Coffee at 5:30, emails, at 6 in the office by 7. The quarterly review was scheduled for 10. I'd prepared my usual presentation, achievements, goals, strategic initiatives for the next quarter. My navy suit was the one I'd worn to my first day, tailored now to fit better, but same lucky outfit. I'd even stopped by David's favorite bakery, brought those overpriced croissants he loved. April 18th started with unusual signs I should have recognized. The security guard Tom, who always had a joke ready, just nodded silently when I badged in. The elevator felt slower, or maybe I was just anxious. Our floor was quieter than normal for a Tuesday morning. Beth from HR was by the coffee machine when I walked past. We made eye contact for a split second before she looked away, busying herself with sugar packets she wasn't using. David's office hadn't changed in 7 years. Same mahogany desk his predecessor had chosen, same leather chairs that squeaked when you shifted weight, same wall of awards and photos documenting his career progression. The newest addition was a picture with William Sterling at the company retreat, both holding golf clubs, both smiling like they shared secrets nobody else knew. He was leaning back when I entered, fingers steepled in that pose. He thought made him look thoughtful, but actually made him look pretentious. The morning light from his corner windows cast shadows across his face, but I could see that smile clearly enough. Not his regular smile, not his meeting smile, or his client smile. This was something different. Satisfaction mixed with something else I couldn't quite identify yet. "Miriam, he said, drawing out my name like he was tasting wine. "Please sit down." The chair squeaked as I settled into it, portfolio balanced on my lap. I'd prepared charts showing our department's growth, my contributions highlighted in subtle but clear ways. The Lancaster renewal I'd secured last week would feature prominently. $40 million for another 3 years, with expanded services they'd specifically requested I manage. "I wanted to discuss your future here," he continued, still maintaining that strange smile. My heart rate picked up. This was it, finally. After 3 years of promises, he was going to announce my promotion. I straightened in the chair, already thinking about calling Marcus, calling Mom, proving that all those sacrifices had been worth something. "We've found someone better suited for your position." The words didn't register at first. I actually laughed, a nervous sound that died in my throat when his expression didn't change. He wasn't joking. David Harrison was sitting there, fingers still steepled, still smiling, telling me that after 9 years, after building half his department's success, after sacrificing everything, they'd found someone better. "I don't understand," I managed to say, though my voice sounded strange, distant, like someone else was speaking. "It's quite simple." he said, leaning forward, now elbows on his desk. The company needs fresh perspectives. You've done good work, Miriam, solid work, but we need someone who can take things to the next level. 9 years dissolved in that moment. Every early morning, every late night, every weekend, every missed birthday, anniversary, holiday, compressed into a single point of disbelief. Good work, solid work. Like I was some mediocre performer he was letting down easy. Who? The word came out sharper than I intended. His smile widened. Tyler Harrison, my nephew. Just finished his MBA at Harvard. Brilliant kid, lots of fresh ideas about financial technology integration. Nepotism, pure shameless nepotism, not even trying to hide it behind qualifications or experience. His nephew. I'd built systems that generated millions, maintained relationships with billion-dollar clients, and he was replacing me with his nephew, who probably couldn't tell a derivative from a dividend without Googling it. He doesn't have any experience, I said stupidly, as if logic mattered in this conversation. He doesn't need experience. He has potential. And frankly, Miriam, that's what we're investing in now. Potential, not past performance. Past performance. 9 years reduced to past performance. The Lancaster deal I'd closed last week, the $42 million our systems generated, the team I'd trained, all just past performance. Irrelevant now that his nephew needed a job. When my voice was barely a whisper. Effective immediately. Security will help you pack your things within the hour. We'll provide 2-week severance, which I think you'll find quite generous given the circumstances. Given the circumstances. Like I'd done something wrong. Like this was disciplinary, not just crude nepotism. 2-week severance for 9 years. Less than a day's pay for each year I'd given them. This isn't right, I said, finding my voice again. I have contracts, client relationships. Lancaster specifically requested me for their renewal. All company property and relationship, he said, pulling out a folder I hadn't noticed before. Your termination paperwork. Sign here and we can make this clean and easy. Clean and easy. Like cutting out someone's heart could ever be clean and easy. I looked at the papers, standard termination forms, non-disclosure agreements, non-compete clauses. Everything designed to protect them, nothing protecting me. I need time to review these, I said. Of course, you have until security arrives. He glanced at his watch. Should be about 45 minutes. 45 minutes to end 9 years. I stood up, legs shaking slightly, portfolio still clutched in my hands. All those charts and projections useless now. David was already turning to his computer, dismissing me like I was just another meeting on his calendar, now checked off. Why? I asked from the doorway. Really, why? He looked up, that smile finally dropping slightly. For a moment I thought I saw something honest in his expression. Because I can, he said simply, then returned to his screen. The walk back to my desk felt endless. Colleagues looked up as I passed, saw something in my face, quickly looked away. Word travelled fast in our department. By the time I reached my cubicle, Jennifer was already there, tears in her eyes. Is it true? She asked. I couldn't speak, just nodded. She hugged me tight and I felt the first tears threaten. But not here. I wouldn't give David the satisfaction of seeing me cry in his department. Security arrived in 30 minutes, not 45. Tom looked miserable as he stood by while I packed 9 years into a banker's box. Photos from company parties, awards, the coffee mug Marcus had given me that said world's best analyst, personal items that had made that cubicle feel less like a prison cell. Robert appeared with his own box, started helping me pack. Then Jennifer, then others, half the department surrounding my desk, creating a protective barrier while I dismantled my professional life. David emerged from his office to watch, arms crossed, that satisfied smile back in place. This is wrong, Jennifer said loud enough for him to hear. Everyone knows this is wrong. Anyone who has a problem with company decisions is welcome to explore other opportunities, David announced to the gathering crowd. The threat was clear. Support me and risk your own job. Most people drifted away, but Jennifer and Robert stayed, helped me carry my boxes to the elevator. In the lobby, Tom the security guard pulled me aside. I'm sorry, Miss Miriam, he said quietly. This ain't right. You're the only one who remembered my birthday every year. The parking garage was nearly empty at 11 in the morning. Wrong time to be leaving work unless something was very wrong. I loaded the boxes into my car, sat in the driver's seat, and finally let the tears come. 9 years. 9 years of being the first to arrive, last to leave. 9 years of being the good soldier, the team player, the one who never complained. My phone was already buzzing. Text messages from colleagues expressing shock, anger, support. An email from Lancaster Industries asking why I'd missed our scheduled call. 3 missed calls from Marcus. I couldn't talk to him yet, couldn't form the words to explain that everything I'd worked for had just evaporated because David Harrison had a nephew who needed a job. The drive home took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Every red light gave me time to think, to replay David's words, to wonder what I'd missed. Had there been signs? Should I have seen this coming? The city looked different in the middle of a workday full of people with purpose, going places, doing things that mattered. I'd been one of them 2 hours ago. Our apartment building's doorman looked surprised to see me. Early day, Miss Miriam. Something like that, I managed. The apartment felt wrong at noon on a Tuesday. Too bright, too quiet, too empty. Marcus's coffee mug still in the sink from breakfast. The bed I'd left unmade in my rush to get to work early. Work, former work. I didn't even know what to call it anymore. I called Marcus first. He answered on the first ring, worry clear in his voice. Jennifer called me. Are you okay? What happened? The story poured out in a rush. David's smile, his nephew Tyler, 2-week severance for 9 years of service. Marcus listened without interrupting, though I could hear his breathing getting heavier as his anger built. I'm coming home, he said when I finished. You don't have to. I'm coming home, he repeated firmer this time. This is more important than any meeting. While waiting for him, I sat surrounded by those boxes from my desk, pulling out items like archaeological artifacts from a past life, the award for exceptional performance from 3 years ago, the photo from the company party where I'd been named Employee of the Quarter, the handwritten note from Mr. Lancaster thanking me for my dedication to their account. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Jennifer called with updates from the office. Tyler had already moved into my cubicle, was asking people how to access my files. He'd tried to log into my computer but didn't know the systems. David had announced in a department meeting that I'd chosen to pursue other opportunities, wished me well in my future endeavours. That's not what happened, Jennifer said, angry. Everyone knows that's not what happened. Doesn't matter what everyone knows, I told her. What matters is what David says happened. Robert texted next. David was already reassigning my accounts, giving Lancaster to Tyler, despite their specific request for me. The automation system I'd built was being handed over to the IT department to manage. 9 years of institutional knowledge walking out the door because of one man's nepotism. Marcus found me on the couch, laptop open, scrolling through job sites with eyes, without really seeing them. He didn't say anything at first, just pulled me against him, let me cry into his shirt until there were no tears left. This might be a blessing, he said finally carefully. You've been miserable for years, Miriam. Maybe this is the universe telling you to find something better. After 9 years, this is how it ends. This is how it starts, he corrected. Your next chapter. Without David Harrison holding you back. We spent the afternoon doing practical things, calculating our budget without my salary, looking at health insurance options, updating my resume for the first time in 9 years. Marcus ordered Thai food from my favourite place, opened a bottle of wine despite it being Tuesday afternoon. Remember when you got the Preston job? He asked. You were so excited. You said you were going to change the financial world. I was naive. You were optimistic. There's a difference. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Miriam, Jennifer gave me your number. It's Sandra from Blackstone Investments. Sandra Martinez. We'd met at conferences, competed for some of the same clients. She was everything I'd wanted to be senior partner at 38, respected across the industry. I heard about what happened at Preston, she continued. David Harrison is an idiot. We have an opening for a portfolio director. Interested. For the first time since leaving David's office, I felt something besides hurt and anger. Hope, maybe. Or at least the possibility of hope. Can we meet later this week? I asked. Tomorrow lunch, 1 o'clock at Gibson's. We don't let talent like yours stay on the market long. After she hung up, Marcus raised his wine glass. See, the universe provides. That evening, the emails kept coming. 3 more recruiters reached out. A former client asked if I was available for consulting. My LinkedIn showed 500 profile views in 6 hours. David might have taken my job, but he couldn't take my reputation. Jennifer called again at 8. You won't believe what happened. Tyler tried to call Lancaster Industries. They refused to talk to him, said they only work with you. A petty satisfaction warmed my chest. Let David explain that to William Sterling. There's something else, Jennifer continued, lowering her voice. Beth from HR let something slip. William Sterling wasn't told you were being terminated. David did this without clearing it up the chain. That didn't make sense. Terminating someone at my level required executive approval. Unless David had lied about the reason, painted it as a resignation or mutual agreement. Be careful, Jennifer. Don't get yourself in trouble over this. Some things are worth trouble, she said fiercely. That night I couldn't sleep. Marcus held me while I stared at the ceiling, replaying 9 years of interactions with David, looking for signs I'd missed. Had he always planned this? Was I just a placeholder until his nephew graduated? Every compliment felt false now, every promise a lie. At 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep, made coffee, and started properly updating my resume. 9 years at one company looked impressive or concerning depending on perspective. I listed every achievement, every innovation, every client win. 3 pages became 5, then 7. Marcus found me at sunrise still typing. You're going to be okay, he said, not a question but a statement. How do you know? Because you're Miriam Chen. You built half of Preston's success while David took credit. Imagine what you'll do when someone actually appreciates you. My phone rang at exactly 8:45 the next morning. Unknown number again. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something instinct maybe made me answer. Miriam, this is William Sterling. I nearly dropped the phone. William Sterling's voice carried the kind of authority that came from 30 years of building empires. I'd heard him speak at company meetings, watched him command rooms full of executives, peers, but hearing him say my name directly made my hands shake slightly. Mr. Sterling. I managed trying to sound professional despite standing in my pajamas in my kitchen. I just learned about yesterday's events. I'm calling because I need to know something and I need the truth. Why did David really let you go? The question hung between us. I could lie, maintain the fiction that this was mutual preserve, some theoretical bridge back to Preston, or I could tell the CEO of my former company exactly what his department head had done. Mr. Sterling, David told me you'd approve this decision. Silence. Long enough that I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. He said what? His voice had changed, dropped an octave, gained an edge I'd never heard before. He said the company was moving in a new direction, that you'd approved bringing in fresh perspectives. Miriam, I haven't spoken to David about personnel changes in 3 months. Tell me exactly what happened. Leave nothing out. So I did. Every word from David's mouth, his nephew Tyler, the 2-week severance, the security escort. I told him about the Lancaster renewal, specifically requesting me about the automation system I'd built, about the years of promises that never materialized. The words poured out professional but honest facts without emotion, even though my heart was racing. His nephew, William Sterling said when I finished voice flat, he replaced you with his 23-year-old nephew who's never worked a day in finance. Yes, sir. The same nephew I specifically told him not to hire when he asked 6 months ago. My breath caught. David had tried this before and been shut down, which meant yesterday wasn't spontaneous. He'd planned this, waited until he thought he could get away with it. Miriam, I need to ask you something else. Have you noticed any irregularities in David's department finances? The question surprised me. What kind of irregularities? Unusual expenses, client entertainment costs that seem high, travel that doesn't align with client meetings. I thought back through the hundreds of expense reports I'd seen. David's monthly submissions that always seemed padded. The conference in Miami he'd attended but hadn't presented at. The client dinners with no clients listed. I've wondered about some charges, I said carefully, but I assumed they were approved. By whom David approves his own expenses up to $50,000 a quarter. $50,000. I'd built systems to save money while David potentially spent hundreds of thousands on questionable expenses. The irony wasn't lost on me. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? William asked. 10 o'clock. Not David's office, my personal office on the 10th floor. Bring any documentation you have about your contributions to the department. Mr. Sterling, I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. I'm asking you to help me understand what's really been happening in that department. And Miriam, don't sign anything David gave you. Not the termination papers, not the NDA, nothing. I haven't signed anything yet. Good, keep it that way. I'll see you tomorrow. The call ended, leaving me standing in my kitchen, coffee growing cold, trying to process what just happened. The CEO had called me personally. David had lied about executive approval. There might be financial irregularities. Everything I thought I knew about my termination was shifting. Marcus emerged from the bedroom, hair disheveled, drawn by my side of the conversation. Was that who I think it was? William Sterling wants to see me tomorrow. Marcus's eyes widened. That's good, right? That has to be good. I don't know what it is, but I did know I needed to prepare. I spent the day gathering everything, performance reviews all glowing until this year when David had suddenly marked me as meeting expectations instead of exceeding them. Emails from clients praising my work, the Lancaster communications specifically requesting me, revenue reports showing the $42 million generated by my automation system. Jennifer risked her job to send me additional information. Screenshots of David's calendar showing meetings with Tyler for the past 3 months, long before my termination. Client complaints from just this morning about the transition. An email from Lancaster threatening to pull their account if I wasn't reinstated. Tyler's struggling, she reported that evening. He doesn't understand our systems can't read the market reports, asked what a mutual fund was in front of clients. David's been in damage control mode all day. Good, I thought. Then felt guilty for the satisfaction, but only slightly guilty. That night, Marcus and I prepared like it was a trial. He played William Sterling while I practiced explaining my contributions without sounding bitter or emotional. Facts, numbers, results. The kind of language executives understood. Don't undersell yourself, Marcus coached. You built half that department, own it. The next morning, I dressed carefully. My best suit, the charcoal one I'd bought with my first bonus. Conservative but confident. Professional but not trying too hard. Marcus insisted on driving me kiss me goodbye at the building entrance. Whatever happens, I'm proud of you, he said. The executive floor was a different world from the 7th floor where I'd spent 9 years. Actual art on the walls, not corporate prints. Fresh flowers on every surface. An assistant who offered me real coffee, not break room instant. William Sterling's office made David's look like a closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls showcasing the Chicago skyline. A desk that probably cost more than my annual salary. But what struck me most were the photos. Not ceremonial grip and grin shots, like in David's office, but real photos. William with his family, with employees at company picnics, with clients in candid moments. He stood when I entered, came around the desk to shake my hand properly. Up close, I could see the steel in his grey eyes, the kind of focus that built companies from nothing. Miriam, thank you for coming. Please sit. We have a lot to discuss. He didn't return to his desk chair, but took the seat next to me, eliminating the power dynamic of the desk between us. Smart. Calculated to make me comfortable, more likely to be honest. I've been investigating David's department for 6 months. He began without preamble. Irregularities in expenses, client complaints that never reached me, revenue that doesn't match effort. Your automation system caught my attention because it was the only thing generating consistent returns. You knew about my system. I know everything that makes my company money. What I didn't know was that David had been taking credit for it. He's been presenting it as his innovation in board meetings. The anger that flashed through me must have shown on my face because William nodded. I suspected as much. David's never had an original idea in his life. He's good at golf, good at schmoozing, terrible at actual finance. I kept him because he maintained relationships. But it seems those relationships were actually yours. He pulled out a tablet, showed me an email from Lancaster Industries. They're threatening to pull $40 million if you're not involved with their account. 3 other clients have made similar statements. That's over $100 million in managed assets tied specifically to you. I stared at the screen, seeing my value quantified in a way David had never allowed me to see. $100 million in client relationships. Not the department's, not David's, mine. There's more, William continued. I had forensic accounting review David's expenses. $200,000 in questionable charges over 3 years. Conferences he didn't attend, client dinners at times when clients were in other cities, first-class upgrades on personal travel, embezzlement. He was describing embezzlement. But here's what interests me most, William said, leaning back. Yesterday, David told the board you resigned for personal reasons. Didn't mention his nephew at all. As far as the board knows, you're taking time off to start a family. That's not even remotely true. I know, which means David lied to the board, lied to me, and violated about 6 company policies in the process. But I need your help to prove it. He was asking me to help build a case against David. Part of me wanted to agree immediately to burn everything down out of spite, but the professional part, the part that had survived 9 years of corporate politics, knew this was dangerous territory. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come back, he said simply. Not to your old position, not under David. I'm offering you Vice President of Financial Analytics. You'd report directly to me, build out your automation system company-wide, manage a team of 12. I couldn't speak. Vice President. 3 levels above where I'd been the position David had been chasing for 15 years. The salary is $250,000 base plus bonuses, full benefits, company car, and something else. He smiled for the first time. David's corner office. He'll be moving to a much smaller space, if he's lucky enough to keep his job at all. You're not firing him. Not yet. I need him to think he's won while I build the case. Forensic accounting needs another week. But Miriam, when this is done, David Harrison won't work in finance again. I promise you that. It was everything I'd wanted offered on a silver platter by the CEO himself. But 9 years of broken promises had taught me caution. Why should I trust this? William's expression softened slightly. Because I built this company on talent, not nepotism. Because losing you cost me $100 million in managed assets. And because David Harrison made a fool of me by lying to my face, and that's not something I tolerate. Revenge dressed up as opportunity, or opportunity that happened to include revenge. Either way, it was more than I'd dreamed of 24 hours ago when my world collapsed. When would I start? Monday. That gives me time to handle David's smooth things with the board and make the announcement properly. And David's nephew, William's smile turned predatory. Tyler Harrison's employment will be terminated for failure to meet basic job requirements. Apparently, he asked what a stock was in front of the Lancaster team this morning. They called me directly to complain. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I thought about David's smug smile, his casual cruelty, his assumption that he could destroy my career without consequences. I'll take it, I said. William stood, extended his hand again. Welcome back, Miriam. Or should I say Vice President Chen? The rest of the meeting was logistics. Start date, compensation, details, team structure. William's assistant brought in contracts, real ones properly reviewed by legal. Everything David's termination hadn't been. Professional, respectful, acknowledging my worth. As I was leaving, William called out one more thing. Miriam, that automation system of yours. Patent it under your name. The company will pay all legal fees. It's yours, not David's, not even Preston's. Yours. I made it to the elevator before the reality hit me. In 48 hours, I'd gone from terminated to vice president, from betrayed to vindicated, from David's victim to David's boss. Monday morning arrived with the kind of dramatic flair that only happens in movies, or apparently in my life. William Sterling had asked me to arrive at 8 sharp, an hour before most employees, to set up in my new office before the announcement. Marcus drove me again this time, both of us giddy with anticipation. Remember, he said, adjusting my collar unnecessarily, you earned this, not through nepotism, not through politics, pure merit. The executive floor was quiet when I arrived. William was already there, coffee in hand, looking like a general preparing for battle. He walked me to what had been David's corner office, now stripped of his personal items, furniture, rearranged windows clean to sparkling. We had facilities work all weekend, he explained. I wanted it perfect for you. It was. The mahogany desk remained, but positioned differently, facing out toward the team area instead of away. New chairs, new computer setup, even fresh plants. The wall where David's ego photos had hung was now empty, waiting for my own touches. David? I asked. We'll be informed of the restructuring at 9. He's being moved to the 3rd floor, a shared office space with junior management. His nephew has already been escorted out. Security handled it this morning at 7. Swift, efficient, brutal. Everything David's treatment of me hadn't been. William's assistant brought me coffee, good coffee, and a schedule for the day. 9 o'clock announcement to the department, 10 o'clock introduction to the senior leadership team, 11 o'clock with legal to discuss the patent filing for my automation system. One more thing, William said, pausing at the door. David doesn't know I know about the embezzlement yet. Watch his face when he realizes you're his new boss. It should be educational. At 8:45, employees started arriving. I watched from my office windows as my former colleagues filed in, coffee cups in hand. Monday morning reluctance on their faces. Jennifer arrived early, as always stopped dead when she saw me through the glass. I gave her a small wave. Her squeal of delight carried even through the closed door. Robert appeared next, did a double take, then actually pumped his fist in the air. Word spread quickly. By 9, the entire 7th floor knew something major was happening. They gathered in confused clusters, whispered conversations stopping whenever footsteps approached. David arrived at 9:02, slightly late, as always, carrying his overpriced coffee and wearing his Monday swagger. He was halfway to his former office when William's assistant intercepted him, directed him to the conference room. the same conference room where he'd announced my replacement just 5 days ago. I watched him walk, watched the moment he saw his empty office, watched the confusion transform into concern. He tried the door, found it locked, turned to find William Sterling standing behind him. "David," William's voice carried across the floor. "Conference room, now." The entire department pretended to work while obviously watching. David followed William into the glass-walled conference room, where I was already seated along with Beth from HR, and someone I didn't recognize, but who had lawyer written all over him. David saw me and stopped so abruptly he nearly dropped his coffee. "What is she doing here?" he demanded. "She," William said coldly, "is your new boss. Miriam has been promoted to Vice President of Financial Analytics. You'll be reporting to her effective immediately." I'd imagined this moment dozens of times over the weekend, but nothing compared to reality. David's face went through a spectrum of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, anger, fear, and finally, when he saw my expression, understanding. "This is about Wednesday," he said. "Wednesday was about your unauthorized termination of a key employee," William corrected. "This is about restructuring for efficiency. Miriam's automation system will be implemented company-wide. You'll assist with the transition." "I won't work for her." "Then you won't work here," William said simply. "Your choice. But I'd think carefully. We're still reviewing some interesting expense reports from the last 3 years." There it was, the threat delivered so casually, but landing like a hammer. David went pale. He looked at the lawyer, at Beth, at me, searching for an ally and finding none. "This is retaliation," he said weakly. "This is business." William stood. "Miriam generates revenue. You generate expenses. Simple mathematics. Beth will explain your new responsibilities and significantly reduced compensation package." William left, the lawyer followed, leaving just Beth, David, and me. Beth pushed a folder across the table, David's new employment agreement. I glanced at the salary, $80,000, less than what I'd made as a senior analyst. "Your nephew's termination paperwork is also included," Beth added. "He violated 16 company policies in 3 days, a new record." David stared at the papers, then at me. "You planned this?" "No," I said, speaking for the first time. "You planned this when you decided nepotism was more important than merit. I just survived it better than you expected." I stood to leave, paused at the door. "Your first assignment is documenting all the processes you've been taking credit for. On my desk by end of day. Don't be late." The department watched me exit the conference room, cross to my new office, their former boss's office. Jennifer started clapping, then Robert, then others, until the entire floor was applauding. David remained in the conference room, papers spread before him, the reality of his situation